Oh man, this is effing crazy.
Shane. A-L-A-N Allen. Allen.
Hey, episode 45 of the 38th Parallel. I am the Hoppitarian. Man, you should have seen what Alan and I were talking about. It was pretty brutal.
Yeah, we laid
fun.
it down. I'm glad we got that behind us, though.
Yep.
I can't go through that again. So
yeah.
Didn't we say that the 38th episode was going to be the last one of the 38th Parallel?
Yeah.
And then what happened?
I lied.
Yeah, you people, you're tricky.
Tricky people.
I swear to God, every single time that intro plays, I keep on thinking, like, this is the longest con there ever was. Like, he just made this as a joke, and then okay, all right, guys, we had a good laugh. Now here's the real intro, but it's been going now for like 7 months. So
maybe one day I'll actually make a serious one.
I'm starting to be concerned that this is it. I don't know.
Well, I'm sorry that I have to make you endure that amazing intro that I made. So
it's just it's very on the nose.
It's like it's our names over and over again.
Yeah. It spells my name.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in case people don't know how to spell Alan, because it could be 2 L's or 1 L, who knows?
A bunch of people don't know how to spell Allen because Allen is a last name. Alan is a first name. And if you get those mixed up, then firing squad. It's got to be the answer.
I just learned there's a guy who's on death row who elected to die via firing squad in South Carolina the first time in, 15 years? So congratulations, sir.
Wow. What do you do to deserve that?
Apparently he beat 2 people to death via baseball bat. So.
Okay.
Tragic.
But for the sake of balance, what did they do?
I looked, and I probably didn't look deep enough, but I didn't. They were just standing there. They were just the parents, I guess, of the lady.
Just the parents? His parents, or what?
I guess the parents of the lady that he really, really liked.
Oh. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, then that's one way to deal with your in-laws.
I guess, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So. Well, I just wanted to start off by,
No, I'm sorry. I'm just I keep on thinking of ways to derail the show. Like, see, this is why I think that we should go back to the old pioneer days where you load up your family in the covered wagon and you head west. Because you think about it, back in those days, like, you didn't just hang around your in-laws for the next 50 years. Like, you wished them well, and they saw you off at the station, and then you went out, you striked out on your own to seek your fortune. You didn't hang around with the in-laws for decades on end. So I'm just saying, could have saved some lives.
Yeah. But he's gonna get shot. It's funny. It says I read an article that says that 3 volunteers get to do that, and you're just like, where do you sign up for that? Or they're just like, how do they get that part? Like,
I mean, I'm sure it's officers. Like not just
man.
Like they don't just put it on the telephone poles outside and you
be
pull
a
the
part
little
of the party
tab
squad?
and there's a
Hell
number on it. No, yeah. Well, I asked you before. It's like, okay, the year is 2027.
Yeah.
They're asking you how you want your death sentence to be carried out. What did you do?
What did I say? Armed robbery, and I murdered a few people or something.
Yeah, it's like an armed robbery gone wrong.
Yeah. Sounds like a plot to a movie or something.
Yeah. I just I mean, I just beat my ex-girlfriend's parents to death with a baseball bat. But you're out there robbing people. Like, at least, you know. I don't know where I was going with that. I'm not sure that makes me better. I'm just.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay. All right, yeah. Okay. I mean, I didn't take any of their stuff. I just wanted them to be gone. Yeah.
You didn't take their stuff. I shouldn't be getting the death penalty. Life in prison. How about that? No.
It depends. See, it depends on the state. You're probably in a good state right now. You're going to a state where it's happening. It's happening. I've told the future. You're going there and you're going to commit armed robbery and you're getting the death penalty.
I guess I should have my own clock behind me, right? Just like you.
Yeah, it'd be like that one, but add like 700 days to it.
Yeah. It's like, this is it. This is the day when I'm gonna commit armed robbery. Just watch out. Watch out.
I don't think that's going to work, though. I happen to know of someone in your house who's going to say, "Put that away. Get that out of here."
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
We're not going to
Doesn't
sit here
look
and
good.
watch
Take it
that
off the
clock
wall.
countdown. Yeah.
It's spooky.
But see, you just got to tell her, is this actually really comforting? So you think that's you think that would make you anxious, but actually it calms me, it soothes me. I know that no matter how bad my day's going, it's almost over. You know?
Well, speaking of something that is over, Mitch McConnell is not running for re-election, which I think everyone is like saying hallelujah, right? He's like, I'm done. I'm done with this. We showed in a recent episode him tripping over stairs, or it's like 2 steps, and he can't even do that, and him being pushed around in a wheelchair, and I mean he's not in good shape, both physically and mentally. So that's it. It's over for him.
You could definitely make the argument if he's actually better or worse now as an old strokey turtle than he was like in the prime of his youth. He's physically worse, but I mean in terms of legislatively, I think he's pretty much on par. You know, it's going to go down. He's going to go down in history, right? Like,
yeah,
this is the end of his public servant career, and the last things of note he will have done is vote against all of Trump's appointees. Of course, they all got appointed anyway, right? But that'll be the last thing that Mitch McConnell did was vote against all of the appointees.
The 29 Republicans who joined every Democrat in voting down Rand Paul's amendment to cut spending by at least $1.5 trillion. I bet you can't guess who's on that list.
Oh, I'm sure it's Mitch McConnell.
Look at that. Mitch McConnell. He's right there.
Kentucky's such a weird state because it's like, how do you have the one senator in the building who actually upholds his oath and even gives the slightest little bit of a damn about the deficit or the Constitution or, executive authority or whatever. But then you have the other senator from Kentucky that is like the literal king of the swamp.
Oh.
What?
Hey, there's a guy, or is it a guy? I don't know who this is, but Blackburn from Tennessee.
You don't know who Marsha Blackburn is?
Marsha Blackburn. Marsha.
Now here's a guy, Chris
Marsha.
Collinsworth. Yeah. Now here's a guy. No, it's Marsha Blackburn. Marsha Blackburn is a neocon piece of shit.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But with McConnell stepping down, there's going to be that hole now in the Senate. Mm-hmm. You know that based almost for a certainty, it's going to be a Republican that's going to take that seat because it's Kentucky.
Yeah.
And people are wondering out loud if maybe Thomas Massey moves from the House to the Senate.
I was gonna show you that because he did a poll. Look at that poll. How did I vote? What did I vote?
You said run for governor.
Yeah.
Now I bet if you scroll down, you'll find my answer because I work for the 10th Amendment Center, and they said that shit that they said There's a bunch of people on there that you need to have muted and blocked. I have most of those people muted and blocked. Anyway.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Can't believe you have.
but anyway, so him running, I get that him running for governor would be better for Kentucky, but I don't give a shit about Kentucky. Massey can't help me in Kentucky. I need him to help me in Tennessee. So since he's probably not going to move to Tennessee, I need him to run for Senate.
Okay, so this is what you said. If I were you, I'd leave DC in the dust and never look back at that hive of scum and villainy. But since you are you, and I get to stay far away from the swamp, please run for Senate.
Mm-hmm.
So here's my thinking for for those who are just listening. So he did a poll. If you were me, would you stay in the House? I got 11.5%. Run for Senate in 2026, 67.1%. That was the winner. Run for governor in 2027, 21.4%. That's what I voted. 116,700 votes even. So here's my thinking for governor. And you just said, well, I'm not in Kentucky, so he can't help me if he's the governor of Kentucky. But if he was the governor of Kentucky, he would have more power to be able to do stuff for that state. Right. And
well,
I mean,
course.
I'm sure Thomas Massey probably thinks, well, yeah, I understand if I was senator and I can probably help other people in other states. But I would think he probably cares the most, just like how you care the most about Tennessee. He cares most about Kentucky. So if he was going to be governor of Kentucky, well, there you go. He's the man in Kentucky. He's the guy.
Think about all the times that Mitch McConnell specifically was the tip of the spear for everything wrong in Washington, D.C. Think of everything that he was on the wrong side of. Think of him purposely shutting down dissent and debate within his own ranks, leading negotiations that always went towards the swamp and away from the American public. Yeah. Imagine literally a career that spans it longer than like you and I have been alive. Like literally, Mitch McConnell started his career as a public servant in 1985. I was born in 1985.
Damn.
All right.
Damn.
Now imagine that
really
exact same scenario. You're talking about 39 years of the grift. Now change it to Senator Thomas Massey of Kentucky. Think of all the things that could have been different with that one key player out of the game, and not just replaced by some rank and file, but replaced by like one of the, you can count on one hand, like genuinely good men in Washington, D.C. That's why I say that. So I think it's important that Mitch McConnell isn't replaced by Mitch McConnell's like chosen replacement. Having Mitch McConnell be replaced by someone that Mitch McConnell and his team approve of, I don't even need to look into them. I already know that's a terrible decision. Mm-hmm. Having Mitch McConnell replaced by Thomas Massey, that'd be huge. It'd be huge. I mean, at the end of the day, look, the House and the Senate are just two different, branches of the legislature, but there's only 100 senators. So if you think about that state, by the way. So first of all, I'm pretty sure Kentucky doesn't exist. I don't think it's a real place. They're just making it up to have more. No, it's not there. It's just a scam by big government to sell more senators. But
are you sure Tennessee?
Imagine having a state where the two senators are Rand Paul and Thomas Massey. Yeah, that puts every other state to shame so hard. Every other state.
That's a good point. Well, another thing too, what I was thinking, because you're saying that or whatever, like he'd be part of the confirmation hearings. And I know like a lot of that stuff's kind of already over, especially with the Kash Patel being confirmed and Tulsi and RFK and all that. But say a new Supreme Court justice, right? Like, doesn't that have to go through the Senate?
Well, all the appointments would be, but I mean, like again, you talking about how Rand was in there. And the Senate is, here we are. It's the beginning of the Trump term, and there's been all this talk in this first 30 days of the Trump administration about Doge and finding all this government waste and spending. And here they are voting on their first budget. And what are they doing? They're trying to increase the budget by over a couple $100 billion. So anything Doge has even tried to do would instantly be wiped away, and then some. They want to increase the deficit. That's the budget that your Republicans just gave us, that just got elected on a mandate of, we want to cut spending. What do? They want to raise the deficit. They want more deficit spending. Rand Paul being like the only one that stands up and says, no, that's not, we just won a sweeping election and this isn't what people voted for. And he's the only Republican that does that. Maybe swapping out McConnell for Massey wouldn't have changed that particular vote. But imagine if McConnell and Massey are both in the Senate for, say, the next 12 to 18 years. Say for the next 12 years. In the next 12 years, you have Thomas Massey of Rand Paul. That's 2 out of 100 senators that you know are going to be rock solid. If the Senate in any given year only has a majority of a few seats, then having 2 senators always on the right side of history can, honest to God, change. We want more, by the way. Like, even if you could get 5 senators, if you had 5 senators that all ran as Republicans, like Massey and Rand, and got elected, and they were in the Senate, and they were rock solid, and their seats were secure, and they couldn't be primaried, they would shut it down. Even this budget that they just voted on, they'd shut it down. They'd say no. Go back in that room and negotiate another one. They could do that. So I'm just saying that's why I want to see. I don't want to see McConnell replaced by McConnell Part 2. I want to see McConnell replaced by someone like Thomas Massey. That's why I want Massey in the Senate. I get, like our friends from the 10th Amendment Center, they believe in local and state level politics. They believe in nullification, the 10th Amendment. So having Thomas Massey be a state governor and saying no to federal edicts would be huge. I agree completely. Yeah. But I'm being selfish and saying that my life, where I'm at, would be benefited much more if he was in the Senate.
So another thing, because I was looking up, like, who's the Kentucky governor right now? And it's
Andy Beshear.
Yeah.
Dick Shitter Bashir. Yeah,
he's a Democrat. So who knows? Like, the next person that will run is a Democrat. And I mean, I don't know. I was thinking about this too. So obviously, like, you and I are fans of his. I mean, followers on Twitter and all that. And maybe we're over amplifying his popularity, but how popular is he in Kentucky? Like, I don't know. I haven't seen any polls in Kentucky. Oh, how popular is Thomas Massey in the whole state? So I'm sure if, say, he does decide to run for Senate in 2026, is he going to do some kind of, well, I want to see how popular I actually am. Maybe he'll go into some other areas, because I have no idea. Like, he's popular amongst us two, but the whole state. I mean, I'm looking right at a Democrat governor. And yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the state, all the counties, a ton of red. But of course, there's the blue sections. I bet you can't tell where the blue ones are.
Well,
how are the big cities?
Yeah, of course. Frankfurt and Louisville, and
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing is that, of course, Massey is like Ron Paul, where Massey can afford to take the stances that he takes because he's bulletproof. He will not lose his seat in the House if he runs for election in the House. He won't lose his seat. Yeah. He is a rock solid incumbent. They cannot primary this man, and a Democrat might as well not even run in that district. And of course, just like in a lot of states, and this is not to denigrate him, it's just a fact of life. His district is gerrymandered in such a way that it is overwhelmingly blood red conservative that would support a diehard constitutional libertarian leaning conservative like a Thomas Massey. If Andy Beshear said, well, I'm not going to be governor anymore, I'm going to run to get rid of Massey, he would be crushed. He would get absolutely murdered. He'd have no chance to win. But the question is that in the other way, could Massey leave that seat, say, look, I'm not going to run for re-election in my seat, even though I know I would win. I'm going to be willing to risk it for the biscuit. I'm going to try to get one of these other seats and potentially end my political career here. Because that's the thing. Look, if you don't run for re-election, you decide to run for the Senate or for governor, and then if you lose, and that's just, you're just out of politics for the next 2 to 4 years or however long. You know, a lot of people don't remember Ron Paul did that. He won election, and then he tried to run for Senate, and he didn't win, and then he was out for a little bit. Of course, he did run as the Libertarian candidate for president, but then he got back in the House, and then he stayed in the House for the rest of his political career. Massey's never done anything like that. But you would say, well, wait a minute. Rand Paul is very similar to Thomas Massey, and he got elected in the Senate in Kentucky. So why wouldn't Thomas Massey? Well, with Rand Paul, it was very much a timing thing. Like when he came in, the name Paul was big. Ron Paul had run for president in 2008, and of course he ran again in 2012, but Rand had already gotten his Senate seat by then. He ran for president in 2008, and so the name Paul had stirred a lot of grassroots support. McConnell, of course, was already there and was the rock-solid majority or Senate leader. And then the other seat came open. Rand ran for it, and he wasn't unopposed, but it was the right place, right time, knowing that he's not Mitch McConnell. Like, look, Mitch McConnell would have just liked to had a clone of himself be the other senator. Instead, he got someone totally the opposite of him, but he won. And again, incumbents by and large, incumbents like Massey and Paul tend to be bulletproof, but most incumbents win re-election. Incumbents tend to win re-election overwhelmingly, despite the fact of congressional approval ratings being so low. Incumbents tend to always win. So once you're in, unless you do something terrible or there's a scandal. Once you're in, you're in. So Rand Paul kind of came along at the right time, struck while the iron was hot, and has maintained his seat despite kind of being a naysayer against his own party. Massey similarly enjoyed kind of a charmed political career where he went from like city planner to I'll just go to Congress, and he won. And it's like, okay. But I mean, he's like a genius, right? He's got like the degrees from MIT. He's a self-made man. He had already had like money working in tech with his wife and built his house running off of a Tesla battery and all this other stuff. And so that really impressed people. And then on top of that, he walked the walk. Like he was a genuine hardcore traditional like constitutional conservative. Which, again, that was big at the time. It's like, look, if we lived in a world where Justin and Mosh could win elections, then Thomas Massey and Rand Paul could win elections. And they did. Yeah. Well, but the question is like, well, if Rand Paul could do it in the Senate, then surely Massey could do it in the Senate because he's been in the House for a number of years. And, I mean, even just look at Massey. Like, you've got it pulled up in Twitter right there. You go hover over his name, see how many followers he has. Like, how many followers does Thomas? He's got 1.2 million followers. Now, obviously, that's not 1.2 million followers in Kentucky. For all I know, there's only like 72 people that live in the state of Kentucky, for all I give a shit.
Right.
But that's a lot. You can find a lot of... Because he's in the House of Representatives. You can find you can go search a bunch of just random dick shitter. Like, hold on.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm gonna pull up. I'm gonna give you a couple of random. Okay, the 5th district of Tennessee is Andy Ogles. That's my district.
Oh.
So go find Andy Ogles. Let's see, Andy Andyyogles. I mean, he'll be on Twitter. He can't not be. Yep, there he is. 28,000.
Wow.
28,000 compared to 1.2 million. Dude, Thomas Massey has got a following. Like it, and that's blown up a lot in the last couple of years, or since the age of Trump. Massey hasn't changed. He's still him and has been the same guy the whole time. But his profile has skyrocketed just in the last, let's see, try to find, because Andy Ogles is relatively new to Congress. Let's see, the oldest one is Steve Cohen, Stevecohen. Steve Cohen. I'm sure that's him.
81.
Yeah, Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah.
So that's the oldest ranking member of the Tennessee delegation. Of course, he's like the only Democrat because he's from fucking Memphis.
Right.
Of course, the Memphians elected an old white man. Isn't that weird? Anyway,
That's ironic.
81,000 for him. 81,000 for the oldest ranking member of Tennessee's representatives. 1.2 million.
Champion for Justice and Civil Rights and Judiciary Committee. Wow. Congratulations, sir. Good for you.
Yeah, sure. Why not? So it's
ranking member of Helsinki Commission. What the fuck?
Yeah. So I mean, it's just absolutely incomparable. So I tend to think that a guy with the profile of his size that would get that much grassroots support, like nationwide, funneling their money and stuff into Kentucky for fucking Thomas Massie, I think he would win. The only question, look how much more he has than their fucking dick shitter governor, and everyone hates Andy Beshear, by the way. They hate him. What a faggot. All right, anyway, he has literally 1 million more followers than that guy right there. All right. So the real question, though, would be Mitch McConnell's hand-picked successor has already officially declared for the Senate vacancy. He's already entering the race for the vacancy. Would Donald Trump endorse anyone? Would he endorse anyone? And if he did endorse someone, would he endorse Mitch McConnell's hand-picked successor? Which sounds like something retarded Trump would do, but remember, Mitch McConnell hates Donald Trump and was purposely trying to impede him every step of the way. Yeah. If Trump had half a clue, he would absolutely shun. Like I said, he could just not endorse anybody. Like, you know what? Right. I'll just let it play out. But definitely don't endorse Mitch McConnell's handpicked successor. If he endorsed Massie, Massie wins. It's over. If Donald Trump endorsed Massie, if Massie said, I want to run for Senate, and Trump said, I endorse Massie, it's over. He wins in a landslide. But if he did endorse the swamp monster, which is something Trump has been known to do, then the swamp monster might win.
I want to read you something here from the Lexington Herald Leader. Daniel Cameron launches 2026 U.S. Senate bid on heels of Mitch McConnell announcement. Mm-hmm. That doesn't sound like Thomas Massie.
That's what I just said. That's Mitch McConnell's handpicked successor has already declared for the race.
So there you go. Daniel Cameron.
Massie has never said that he wants to run for that Senate seat. Right. But then a bunch of big accounts on Twitter were just kind of just saying out loud, you know, what we really need is Massie in the Senate. And Massie had responded to some of them with like the emoji, which and it's like poll. And then he did the poll. It's like
gauge,
So it makes people think, is he just being a troll or the gears spinning? You know, is he thinking about it? I don't know.
So say because like I said, Daniel Cameron launches a Senate bid to take Mitch McConnell's seat.
Mm-hmm.
What if Thomas Massie goes, okay, well, I'll challenge that. I'll go after that seat as well. I don't know, like how similar. I'm sure they're probably different in some ways, not just by looks, but like how much would that split the vote then? If you're going to have Daniel Cameron and Thomas Massie, because maybe Thomas Massie goes, look, I know that he's probably more in line with McConnell than me, but at the end of the day, I don't want to split that. I don't want a D to take over that spot. So if Daniel wins it, then I'll live with that. Now, say he does do that, but then he runs for governor in 2027. I'm sure people who like you who would want him to run for senator, well, now he's the governor of Kentucky. Hey, I mean, it's better than nothing. Better than him just being like, "Well, I'm done. I don't want to be here anymore. Who knows who will take up my spot in the district that I'm representing."
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who knows? Because like the last time he ran, it was literally just him. Like he literally voted for himself. Over. Election's done. No need to vote anymore. It's over.
Yeah. I mean, I guess a big part of it is like because it's trying to get into the mind of Massey himself. It's like, look, he's been at this for a while,
Sure,
and he has gone on record as not being a proponent of term limits. So it's not like he's going to quit because he doesn't think he should be in office anymore. Well, actually, he's never been a supporter of term limits. But what I'm saying is that we've seen, especially over the last few years, how it's futile, right? Like for him, if you're Thomas Massey, it's just like Ron Paul. If you're Thomas Massey and you're in the House of Representatives, then it's just, it's like you're the person sweeping the water back into the ocean to try to dry off the beach.
Yeah, it's you like, and it's like 435 total people. If you're a senator, it's 1 in 100. If you're a governor, 1 in 1.
Well, yeah.
But Bill Bishop, he said that. Bill Bishop said that 1 in 1 is greater than 1 of 100 is greater than 1 of 435. I think he's probably making the argument that he should probably run for governor, but But either one, senator or governor, Kentucky. That's fine. Yeah, but either one is a win. Like if he runs for senator, if he runs for governor, that's great. Like I get the arguments for like, the Senate argument is probably stronger than than people who want him to run for governor. Especially since senator has more, like you were saying, more power to kind of control what happens, not just in Congress, but the entire country. As opposed to being a governor of Kentucky, you're kind of more in power with what's happening in Kentucky.
So your big federalist people would say that he needs to run for governor. That's basically what people who believe in federalism say, well, he should run for governor because I believe that the power should rest within the states, and as the executive of the state, he could exercise that power. The problem is that, look, the genie's out of the bottle. Thomas Massey himself, again, has gone on record as making this argument that we could sit here and talk until we're blue in the face about the founders' vision of America and what the ratifiers of the Constitution believed, and they didn't believe in incorporation. And, they would be appalled at interstate commerce and all the bastardization and the 14th Amendment. And they absolutely believed, just like they absolutely believed in secession. They absolutely believed that the states were sovereign, the people were sovereign, and then the states, and that they created the federal government, and therefore all of these different issues are state level issues. But what Thomas Massey himself has gone on record as saying is, I agree with everything you just said, but the genie's out of the bottle. We can't put it back in. None of the arguments you or me make, historically or otherwise, on this issue is going to change the fact that the federal government has used super control of all of those different things, and they're going to continue to do so. So, since Thomas Massey himself would say, me as a resident of Kentucky can do absolutely nothing to stop the Leviathan, the only chance in the world you have is having a voice in Washington, because that's just the cards we've been dealt right now. Right. And in that case, again, as we were talking about earlier, appointments, Supreme Court, and same thing again too. Like you cannot emphasize enough. It's not just some random senator who's walking away. It's Mitch McConnell, who is one of the most vile, evil swamp monsters to ever exist in American politics, but also was the Senate majority leader / minority leader when they were in the minority. He was the guy he was like Nancy Pelosi. He was the guy cutting the deals. He was the guy in the when you think of the smoke-filled back room where the uber elite decide, look, this is how it's going to be, and y'all are going to line up and do what I say. That was Mitch McConnell.
Yeah.
He's the one going away. Who better to replace? Because again, we're not talking about just some random senator. We're talking about the worst fucking one. I will go on record as that. I will say that. Like, worse than Nancy Pelosi, worse than Elizabeth Warren. Absolutely.
You make that argument for sure, yeah.
He's not. First of all, you can make the argument just flat out on X's and O's he's worse, but you can absolutely make the argument that the fact that he has an R next to his name and yet is in line with those pieces of shit, that makes it even worse. Because look at it from Trump's perspective. Like, we have a majority in the Senate, except for one of the members of our majority is voting against me. So, how can we?
Too.
How can we rely on our very thin majority when we can't, because members of our majority are switching sides literally every vote? So that guy is the guy going away. Imagine replacing that guy with Thomas Massie.
Yeah. So, like in his poll, what if the run for governor in 2027, what if that one had won? Do you think he would have listened? Oh, this poll, over 116,000 people said, the majority of those people said I should run for governor. Do you think he would end up doing that? Oh, well, I guess the poll said I should do that. Or is he going to go, well...
He's not going to do anything the poll says. The poll's irrelevant.
Right.
Thomas Massie's not
if it's irrelevant, then why would he run it in the first place?
It's instructive. It's instructive for you can see what the conversation is. It's not about Thomas Massie's not going to do what the poll says.
Oh, Senator? All right, I'll run for senator in 2026.
This isn't fucking Nickelodeon. He's not going to let the kids decide who gets to win. He's going to do what he's going to do. But it's just more it's putting feelers out there of, well, do I have support for X, Y, and Z? What do people say? And I can also promise you, while that poll did get like 100,000 something votes, and that's all well and good, if he's listening to anyone, he's only listening to like mutuals and people that he knows and respects,
family,
to see like what they're saying. Of course, I mean, a mutual of Thomas Massie, like Alan Mosley TV, I'm sure he looks down and sees that. It's like, oh, well, if Alan says I should run for Senate,
right,
then I mean, Thomas Massie does like a lot of my tweets, so I mean, I don't need to brag.
Yeah, there you go.
He never likes the ones where I call people dick shitters and faggots, but he does.
Hey, don't say that. Nobody can see likes. Why are you telling everyone that? Come on.
Yeah, he doesn't. He doesn't
secret.
like those. Yeah.
Well, speaking of bragging, like, obviously, he follows me too. So thanks, Thomas. I really appreciate it. You're a cool guy.
Oh, you're on a first name basis.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I got you.
Nah.
Well, at least he's not racist.
Yeah, I was kidding.
against Asians. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. Who knows?
So I look. I think the poll was interesting. To me, the biggest takeaway from the poll was just the simple fact that it's crossed his mind. Like, I think before. Like, for one, he has himself, again, I'm using his own words. He said in interviews, like, look, he didn't go to MIT and then start a tech company and then like retire to the hills of Kentucky to go into politics. That was never a thing.
Yeah.
He literally was like a volunteer engineer for his local town who did things like fix the boiler at the county jail. And then they were like, this guy's a really cool leader. You should run for something. And he literally went from like city manager of a town of like 3,000 people to House of Representatives like that. Yeah. Now, again, he's in a very rural district in Kentucky. So it's kind of like the stars sort of aligned. It's like there's this super impressive guy, but also in a very friendly electorate. And he came in and got it.
And that's why I was kind of wondering about, like, how popular actually is he in that whole state of Kentucky? Because, I mean, if you're running for Senate, like, if he does end up running for senator, you still have to make sure that people vote for you. So you can't just be like, well, the district that I'm in loves me, so I think I'm pretty good. I mean, I know I'm probably speaking obvious here, but you kind of have to go around, talk to the people. Hey, what do you think about, what's going on in Kentucky? Hey, go to Frankfurt, go to Louisville and Lexington, see how they feel about you. I mean, they're probably not. Majority probably won't vote for you anyway because they're all blue apparently, but still go over there and see what's going on. And hey, maybe we get more R's this time. You get more R's to vote for that guy, or I don't know, maybe a couple D's. I don't know, but if he ends up doing that, then great. And also, since you said that he's not a fan of term limits, You really don't have to worry about that as a senator. Because as a governor, it's 2 terms and that's it. But senator, oh well, shit. I could be like Mitch McConnell. I can be in there for 50 years, whatever. I mean, I'm sure he won't be there for 50 years, but I'm just saying he could be there for however long he wants. Could you imagine though, the amount of power that Mitch McConnell had, and like you were saying, if Thomas Massey did end up, now I'm going against my governor vote. If you're going to be that guy, yeah. And plus, what's the line, like the chain of command for president? Like it's president, vice president. And then
the
Senate Majority Leader? Yeah, Speaker of the House. No. Yes, I'm stupid. Yeah, Speaker of the House. And then
I know you're not from here. It's fine.
Yeah, I know, but he'd be up there.
Well, okay, so that actually was another thing. Is that the answer that had the least votes was just stay in the House. There, right. I think because most people basically had the attitude of, well, if you have an opportunity for a higher profile gig than just congressman, then sure, one of the other two. However, there's a giant caveat that some people in the chat, some people in the thread did mention, but not a lot, is if you could have the speakership wrapped up, like if they're going to finally get rid of this fucking retard liberal that for some reason they elected as a Republican, Mike Johnson, if they finally impeached Mike Johnson and they were going to have a genuine open field vote for the next Republican speaker, if Massey had the votes, stay in the House. Because that's huge. That's bigger than a senator.
But that's no guarantee, though. I mean, he's probably not. I don't know how popular he is amongst his own fucking people.
He's not.
Party. Yeah, exactly. So how would he be able to become speaker? Mike Johnson. Who were the other candidates? John Toon and whoever the Rick Scott. Those were the 3. Thomas Massey was on the list. What's the?
It's because Massey didn't want to be. He didn't run. It only works like you have to get rid of these people entirely.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So when you get rid of the swamp monsters who have been speaker, then you have opened the door to a genuine speakership election. When I say genuine, the ones we've had are not genuine. The participants are already decided on, and you get to pick who's the least worst option. And when I say you, I mean members of the House. I don't mean you and me. If Massey could, so again, that was like there was very famous people who were making this point, not me. Is that if Massey had the votes for the speakership, stay in the House, because if he becomes Speaker of the House, oh my fucking god, dude.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Because that's the guy. That's the guy who's deciding what things are going to the floor, what's getting votes. That's the guy who's really playing hardball with the negotiations on bills. Dude, you want to talk about those smoke-filled rooms? First of all, it would be Thomas Massey is the leader of that conversation. And second of all, he could blow the conversation up by just simply saying, we're not negotiating omnibus bills anymore in the smoke-filled back room. We're doing it on the floor. Get ready for the debate. That's what we genuinely need. Thomas Massey could do that if he had the votes, but he can only do that if he stays in the House. Whereas he could run for Senate and just not win, and then he's just out of politics. Whereas if he stays in the House, he could go for the speakership, but at least he'd still be in the House.
He'll have a show on Newsmax or something like that. He could host the show.
See, he's exactly the kind of person that if he were out of politics, he would be out.
Yeah,
he'd go live his life and be productive, and
So basically, because I was joking about McConnell, who was one of the 29 Republicans who voted down Rand Paul's amendment to cut spending, right, by at least $1.5 trillion. So what he wouldn't have Blackburn's vote. He wouldn't have John Cornyn's vote. Tom Cotton, he wouldn't have Tom Cotton. Lindsey Graham. I think
you're naming a bunch of people that should be publicly executed. Like, that's the thing.
Yeah, but okay, it's 29. What about the other ones voted for it? So maybe if it was Thomas Massey and I don't know, I'm just gonna say Josh Hawley from Missouri. If it was Josh Hawley and Thomas Massey, who would win that? In the Republican, if he was gonna run for senator, who would run in that? Who would win that?
Between who?
Between Thomas Massey and Josh Hawley.
Thomas Massey. Thomas Massey's profile is big. That's the thing, is that there would be a lot more pressure. Look, Thomas Massey 6 years ago is not sitting there at 1.2 million followers.
That's
and
true,
making
yeah,
headlines.
yeah.
Like he became huge in Trump 1.0 because he wasn't the kind of guy who was just going to blindly. Now he wasn't MAGA, but he also wasn't a never Trumper. He was an
Yeah.
honest to
He would
God
support him whenever
individual
yeah.
conservative. But then, of course, he was the guy that Trump called a third-rate grandstander for demanding them having a vote on the COVID shit, which, you know, man, you talk about aging like fine wine. Massey was right on everything,
Yeah.
and everyone knows it. And so, again,
Trump,
his
I think,
profile.
knows that too.
Well, Trump himself endorsed Massey in his most recent House race,
Right.
and specifically worded, because Massey told the story. Trump's team called Massey and said Trump wants to, you know, give you the official endorsement for your race. And Massey was like, I'm kind of surprised he wants to, because he called me all these names and everything
Yeah.
else. And they ended up talking on the phone for like 10 minutes. And
It's just politics.
Yeah. And Massey had told Trump's rep that the only way I accept it is, instead of it being your little boilerplate endorsement with the name erased and writing in Thomas Massey, I want you to change the language to specifically like allude to the whole grandstander thing. And they did. So that tells you that like the Trump team thinks enough of him and the whole thing to like acquiesce to that. So again, that's the big X factor, right? Any hypothetical you can give me about can Massey do this, can Massey do that? If Donald Trump comes out and says Massey's the guy, vote for him, it's over. It's over. He wins. Any hypothetical you give, he wins if Trump says so.
I was trying to find the endorsement, and in a statement, Trump referred to the libertarian-minded congressman as a conservative warrior and a first-rate defender of the Constitution.
First rate, yeah, that was the thing that
There you go.
they changed in there.
Yeah. At the time, Trump called Massey a disaster for America and for the great state of Kentucky, and urged GOP leaders to throw Massey out of the Republican Party. That's funny, but you know, time changes, and because I heard him talk about on Tucker Carlson's show where, you know, they talked, and well, you know, we seem to be okay now, and so yeah, we'll see how it happens, but I mean,
that's the other one too, is that like there's like literally hundreds of members of Congress that are never going to go on Tucker Carlson, not because they don't like Tucker Carlson, but because Tucker Carlson ain't going to have them.
Yeah.
But he's had Thomas Massey. Right. Massey's profile's pretty up
and
there.
that probably helped with his Twitter following, or his social media following in general.
I mean, at the end of the day, he's legit, and he also has the street cred of being legit. The fact that he's made the stands that he's made against the opposition that he's been against and not wavered, and then come out the other side stronger. And of course, again, in his own district, it's like, look, dude, if you decide we've had it with Massey's bullshit voting against our budgets, he's out of here, and you send a primary challenger and he gets 89% of the vote, nah, man, you're stuck with this guy.
Yeah,
he's legit. I mean, he's genuinely, and I don't say this lightly, like all the people who love Ron Paul sat for years thinking, well, is this movement really the same without him? Because Ron Paul's not coming back. He's not coming back. I mean, Ron Paul's 89 years old. It's not even a matter of whether or not we love Ron Paul. I'll love Ron Paul till the day I die. But the man's 89 years old. There's got to be someone younger who can carry the torch. Massey never asked for that torch in the sense of trying to lead a political movement. But he nevertheless has the torch because he's actually walked the walk. He's followed the Ron Paul blueprint of you get into Congress in a rock solid district where you have the political clout, you have the security, the political clout to be able to draw those lines in the sand and say, I'm not budging. And he's done that. So that's, I think, in a lot of ways, that's just what makes things like this poll so interesting, is that he's actually forward thinking to maybe I can do more than this. Look, if we had 70 Thomas Masseys around the country, government would be totally different tomorrow. There'd be so many votes saying, "Nuh-uh, we ain't gonna do this, that, and the other." So what I wish we had more than anything was a lot more I wish we had more Thomas Masseys rather than us talking about what Thomas Massey could do more.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because I wasn't expecting to talk about this for a long time, but it's a really interesting topic, and whatever he decides to do, hey, do what's right for you.
I was worried after what happened with his wife that he would just retire, and in that case it'd be like, well, now we're down to 0 Thomas Massey. That's even worse.
Yeah.
But apparently he's actually emboldened to just be an even bigger thorn. So I'm here for it. I don't know for sure what he's going to decide. I think the safe money is just to say he just stays where he is. That's the safest money, is he just doesn't do anything. It's just talk. They're just talking. And of course, he's not a spring chicken either. He's only getting older, and Senate races are for 6 years. So if 2026 gets here and Massey doesn't make a move, he ain't going to the Senate anytime soon, because that'd be another 6 years after that.
It'd be a Daniel Cameron.
So it may be maybe that's part of it. It's kind of like if this was something I were going to do, now's the time.
Right.
And if I don't do it now, then it's probably not going to happen. Maybe he never even seriously considered it, and so it's just moot, and it's just interesting timing. I mean, Mitch McConnell is the one that we're all cheering being gone, but there's a whole lot of people like him. There's a lot of people like him in terms of being evil pieces of shit, but also a lot like him in as being old, decrepit has-beens. Like, there's a lot of people that are going to be out of public life pretty soon just because they're old as dirt. I mean, like Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Bernie Sanders. Like, there's tons of ones that are going to be gone soon because they're all so old. So there's going to be a lot of new faces. But that's why, again, it's like, if Nancy Pelosi retires, San Francisco is just going to elect another Nancy Pelosi. They're not going to go from that to Thomas Massey. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But in Kentucky, where it's certainly going to be a Republican, and they've already elected a Rand Paul, and so the people who vote for Rand Paul every year are pretty likely to vote for Thomas Massey, right? And Rand Paul is a bulletproof incumbent senator. So if all the people who vote for him vote for Thomas Massey, then Massey's going to win. It's the same voters. There's not districts. There's not senatorial districts. There's only congressional districts. So the entire state votes for Senate. So if everyone who votes for Rand votes for Thomas, he wins. So whereas we can't replace Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders with anyone better, we could replace Mitch McConnell with someone better.
Well, I wanted to go to the main event.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Think about this, Shane.
What?
It's 5 till.
I know.
Do you actually?
I know.
Do you want to call this the main event or call it the bonus round?
Okay, we'll call it
We'll
call it the bonus round, and then after that's lightning round. But I actually wanted to show you, because I titled the episode "Trevor Noah suggests segregation should be reintegrated," and I think what he said was interesting. Okay, so I wanted you to hear it because I don't know if you've heard this before, but here he is talking about suggesting segregation should be reintegrated into American schools.
I found myself wondering, and this applies to America, and then maybe it'll go to other places in a different way because Finland ties in. Do you think that integration was the right move? And now I'm separating two things, because I know in America people are like, well, of course, I mean, there was racism and there's segregation, and I go, yeah, no, I'm separating them. Let's separate someone being oppressed and someone not being able to get a job and someone not being able to get a bank loan. Let's take all of those, the negative things away. because I'll put myself out personally and say, I think whether we're talking about gifted kids who are anomalous, let's say, to the norm, whether we are talking about, and I mean anything that does not fit into a category, I think the part of the reason Finland is able to do it is because, have you been to Finland?
Very homogeneous.
I've been to Finland. You know who's in Finland? Finnish people. That's it. That's it. And because they're all Finnish, there's an idea of like, no, we all head in the same direction. We all know what our actions mean. And that's a really powerful thing I've learned in communicating with other people. When I'm in a room with anyone where we start to tie together multiple things. So if I'm in a room with Black people, already there's like an implicit trust because we know what certain actions, words, and vibes mean. And then you're in a room with another African. Already. Now, even if you shout at me, I know what your shout means. The same way an Italian knows what an Italian shout means.
Yeah.
Right? I know I'm prefacing it with a lot because it's a loaded question.
Yes.
But I would love to know if you think integration was the right solution, maybe, on the other side of, what America, of civil rights.
Yeah. No, I don't. And I don't think it's actually that controversial when if you understand that segregation and integration weren't the only options. Like those are within those two options, it may seem like integration is the more progressive. Like, of course, we don't want segregation. But again, when you're being integrated into institutions, into a culture that's a supremacist culture, that's a culture that feeds off of hierarchy, that feeds off of insecurity, anxiety, why are we being integrated into that?
Yeah, so Trevor Noah is saying, I think, Finland's homogenous and there's a bunch of Finnish people. I mean, there you go.
I like how they all understand what he's getting at with Finland,
Right.
and they implicitly understand it's better that way.
Yeah.
They understand they just understand that I shouldn't say better. They understand that wasn't a criticism.
Right.
Whereas in different places and times, those people on the same side of the political spectrum would say that you're saying something bad, but he's not saying something bad. He's just recognizing it as the truth and saying that it works. Like, okay,
and then how do the lady respond to that?
So, and by the way, like all of that was great until the lady on the screen in literally the last 5 seconds of the clip, she lost the plot.
Yeah.
It's like, so she's upset. She gets that, because when they're talking about segregation, understand that's a loaded term. Segregation in terms of people being segregated is not bad. State mandated forced segregation is a different thing than a community choosing to be self-segregating. Self-segregation is fine.
Sure.
State segregation is bad. In the same way that self-integration might be fine. But state manufactured integration was not fine. And that's what we were saying from the beginning. Holy fucking shitballs, you people. Now, she lost the plot in the end because in her mind, it's forced integration is bad because why would us why would us wonderful Wakandans want to be integrated into your terrible racist capitalist hierarchy? It's no, actually, our culture is objectively better than your filth. Sorry, it's true. But you had it right before that, which is, look, if that's what you think about like Western civilization, if that's what you genuinely think about it, even though you're a goddamn retard if you do, but if that's what you actually think, then yeah, I could understand why you wouldn't want to be a part of it. If that's what you see it as, then I could understand you being like, oh, I don't want to have to be involved in that. I'd be like, that's actually really funny that you would say that, because we don't want y'all involved with that either. Like,
and see that I was thinking about that too. It's like, well, Trevor Noah's saying it, and they're all like, yeah, you're making some sense, man. But if like Jared Taylor was saying the same thing,
oh yeah,
why would you say that, sir? Why you don't you don't want blacks and whites to no, because it's damaged the American culture and white culture.
If Donald Trump just made that Trevor Noah statement verbatim
Yeah.
at the White House lawn tomorrow, then not only would he be condemned for it, but those people on this program would condemn him for it.
Yeah.
Because they're just mindless husks. Like they amongst themselves, they may have this conversation, and that's great. I think it was a good interesting conversation that they're having. But I also know that these people are just vipers. And yeah, if I had any say in the world and I went up there and said that publicly, then they'd be like, "Oh, well, there you go. The lady on the screen would say, see, this is exactly what I'm talking about. We don't want to be forced to be involved with these terrible racists like this Allen guy." I was like, well, I just said exactly what you just said. Like,
let's take the transcript that Trevor Noah said and tell her. And she's like, well, I can't believe. It's like, well, that's exactly what Trevor Noah said on your show. You were like, oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah, black boy. Let's go.
What's so funny is, so again, Thomas Sowell would agree completely with that statement, and he would cite all manner of socioeconomic data that would talk about how children out of wedlock, marriage rates, literacy rates, overall education, employment rates, per capita income. There was this massive upward mobility amongst the black community every decade after the Civil War, all the way through to before the start of the Civil Rights era in the late 1950s, early 1960s. Massive income mobility up to that point. But after the start of the Civil Rights era, it immediately starts to nosedive. So Thomas Sowell, who is a black man, would cite tons of actual real-world data that would confirm what Trevor Noah was talking about. Mm-hmm. But you and I both know that those three people hate Thomas Sowell. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, most likely.
It's like it's like left to your own devices. If you just put yourself in a room, no one's watching. You're not gonna, the people that you're signaling for can't hear you. Tell me how you really feel. And it's like for just a brief moment, we got a glimpse, right, of, well, maybe things aren't working out the way we thought they would, and maybe we should do something different. And it's like, okay, yeah. But I bet if you put those three people right now at a TED Talk tomorrow, they would talk about how Thomas Sowell is, an Uncle Tom. And all of this.
What were they expecting? Like all of them are every single black person in America are billionaires, and all the white people are sitting out in the streets snorting crack. Is that what they were thinking was going to happen when we all integrated together?
Yeah, I mean, like I don't have all the figures off the top of my head, obviously, but like Thomas Sowell has talked at great length about how, like, look. When you get up to like the World War baby boom era of American history, like black household literacy was right on the level of whites, and actually, believe it or not, marriage rates had actually already slightly surpassed white households by like the early 1950s. And when you consider, like, look, I'm not going to be one of these people to be like herp derp slavery, but when you consider that obviously back in like the 1930s, the black people living then to that at that time were a lot closer to slavery than like blacks today by many decades. And yet their life was their upward trajectory in income mobility, education, standard of living, literacy, numeracy, everything. Like this massive progress that a whole community of people who literally still had like living grandparents who had been slaves, right? At that point, and their mobility was through the roof. but only when the things that they're talking about were state mandated did they actually start to lose ground. And then you look at the black community today. You didn't have issues with like 1 in 4 black, teenagers or men being in some form of the, correctional system. That wasn't the case then. And so I'll leave you with this. Like, this is obviously the argument that Thomas Sowell ultimately was making is if things were going better for them in, say, 1950 than they are in 2025, you can't honestly with a straight face tell me people are more racist today than they were in 1950. I can assure you that the average person on the street would have been more explicitly racist in 1950 than they were in 2025. And yet they were doing better. So the point being is that, well, it can't be racism. It can't be racism, and it must be something about the policies that we have pursued and mandated across the board. There has to be something to it because the data just doesn't line up. Trevor Noah's he's right there. And the fact that he said other people, he's like, look, Italians are going to get other Italians. The Finnish get other Finnish. Just like, because he's talking to the woman sitting at the table with him. Like, Trevor Noah knows he's like, because isn't Trevor Noah like British or something?
Yeah, that or African or something like that. Yeah.
So he's like British African, but that woman's like African. She's African. She's not black. She's African. Like, African is different than black, just like Italian is different than black, or Finnish is different than black. African's also different than black. Mm-hmm. But these different people are going to just naturally identify and have a certain inherent. He even talked about the word trust. He even said inherent trust, talking about his own community, that when I'm in a room with my own people, there's more implicit trust. When our people talk about high trust versus low trust societies, these people call us racist. He literally just he just doesn't know he's talking about it, right? Trevor Noah's not smart enough and hasn't read enough books to know that he's speaking our language, that they call us racist when we talk about it. But it's like, it's if you could just turn off the noise for 5 minutes and not virtue signal, it's like you might come to some of these conclusions, but you have to leave the door open that if people you don't like, it's kind of like, to kind of bring this all full circle, it's like a lot of people don't like anything Trump does because Trump did it. Because Trump breathes air, breathing air must be bad. Because Trump wants to cut spending, well, he just wants to fire all these good, hardworking Americans from their jobs, right? Yeah. It's like, well, if people like Trevor Noah could accept that just because somebody supports somebody you don't like says something doesn't mean the thing isn't true. You can still not like that person. And by the way, you can have totally legitimate reasons to not like someone, but that doesn't mean that their ideas are wrong.
Yeah, I looked it up and he was born in South Africa. So there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
I bet, get the hell out of there. Good job, Trevor.
Yeah. So again, this was the head bonus, but one more thing. I really wanted to show this because I thought this was funny.
Okay.
In my opinion. So real quick. This is Donald Trump and Maine Governor Janet Mills getting into it.
The NCAA has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand Maine. Is Maine here, the governor of Maine? Well, are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding. Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor because I don't think you'll be in elected politics.
Men and women's sports.
Mm-hmm. Oh, she's a big proponent of men beating the shit out of women.
Like, I don't
Yeah,
understand.
so
Yeah.
it's so interesting that she is a woman. It's a female governor that he's talking to. Like, isn't it so weird that these women they're like gender traders. They're like sex traders. TRAIT, not trade, like in giving and receiving. Like she will hurt. She is a woman that is a governor of a state who has done well. You know, despite existing in the patriarchy, she as a woman has become a governor of a state. And she will throw other women under the bus for the ideology. Like, there's just something particularly heinous about that. I mean, it's heinous no matter who does it, but it's a different level of heinous when a woman would condemn other women to failure in support of an ideology.
Like, men and women's sports, and she's like, yeah, I think that's fine. Okay. So, I mean, like biologically, men are stronger than women. Usually, you pretty much faster. So I don't know exactly. It's like, okay, so if men can play women's sports, then what's the point of having women's sports in the first place? Just have it all be men then, right? Why does it gotta be all intergender or whatever? Like, unless you're doing a tag team.
Because Shane, it has to be subsidized. That's why.
Whatever.
Look, we don't have time to get into like sports and particularly collegiate sports, because it's really the big one is collegiate sports. The reason why women have to be strong and the reason why women are totally equal and just as good as men, but we still need to have all the women's sports via Title IX is because that money. We need it to be subsidized because for some reason our perfectly equal and totally awesome sports just don't make any money. It's so weird that no one will watch any of it or give us any money.
Like the WNBA?
Jesus.
Maybe what they should do with the WNBA is they should replace all the women with guys.
You know, it's funny as you
Yeah.
bring in Caitlin Clark and you look at like what a huge boon she's been to the league. But you know, if you actually look at the figures, for all the money they made with having Caitlin Clark in the WNBA, all that did was bring the WNBA up to only loses a ton of money rather than loses a whole lot of fucking money.
Oh, congratulations on gaining $1 million. You still lost $50 billion. So congratulations.
Fucking
Good for you.
So
W.
yes, they gotta be. It's funny they like I said, they'll throw women under the bus to support men beating the shit out of them because of an ideology that they're slaves to, and yet at the same time they want to maintain women's sports because they want it to be subsidized by the men's programs in order to make money.
So can LeBron James go play for the Los Angeles Sparks then? Is that okay? Was that allowed?
Well, you know, Dave Chappelle did a bit on that.
Yeah.
You just go because he was because you know he got in trouble there when he was having his little war with the trans community, and he was like, because he was like, you know, LeBron James,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Said that nigga would score 300 points a game.
He was bashing everyone. All the women have bloody noses. Oh, my breast. One of my breasts bursted because you hit me so freaking hard.
Well, like there's a reason why like exhibitions are few and far between, right? It's because the exhibition, like by and large, the ideologues don't want the exhibitions to happen because the exhibitions are going to illustrate what we all already know. Like, of course, I think you and I have talked about the one before where, like, there was the exhibition where, like, the 246th ranked male tennis player played both of the Williams sisters back to back, and just like they didn't even win a single game. They just crushed the fuck out of both of them. But of course he would. Any random dude who's played tennis would murder them because he's a man. That's just reality. It's just how it is. It's not. And by the way, they were good sports about it. Like, they laughed and had a good time. It's not like they were pissed or anything. They knew what was going to happen, and they, But the ideologues don't want even that. They don't even want it happening just purely for shits and giggles, because it's going to illustrate to the world what we all already know. But imagine them imagine them doing that in any one of the major sports. Like, I mean, depending on what your definition of major sport is, maybe you think tennis is. But like basketball. Imagine them having the LA Lakers play the LA Sparks in an exhibition, like half of basketball.
Right, yeah.
Could you fucking imagine? So for one, it would have to purely be for fun, and they would have to tell the participants to go easy, because the men would hurt the women.
Easy.
They would
go on
physically
easy mode, please.
They would physically be injured. Like, you put a center out there, and they would just be crushing women under the basket. So if the Lakers purposely took it really easy, it would still be like adults playing soccer against kids. They would just play keep away, right? Like, they would just be lobbing passes all the way down the court, and the women would be like, "Ooh, let me play."
I'm so much taller than you.
It's just how it is.
Yeah.
You could even go a step further and be like, could you have a WNBA team just play two men? Like, if it were just LeBron and Luka, what would be the score of LeBron and Luka versus the LA Sparks? And it would still be however many points they want to win by. Because what would they do? Luka would inbound to LeBron. LeBron could go up for any pass that Luka throws, and they could not stop him from getting the inbound. He would go through or around all of them, and then he would either dunk the ball or pass it back to Luka, who again could go around or through any of them. It's just reality. So yeah, but again, bringing this back to the point at hand, which is just a female governor willing to die on the hill of, no, I got to make sure that these young girls' careers are ruined because my donors are really pro chopping dicks off. So it's like, who is your constituency? Do you ever wonder that? It's like, who is your constituency if your constituency is mentally ill people who believe in genital mutilation? There's just not enough of them to win an election. So who exactly is telling you that this is a winner? Like, she could have come out right then there that day and say, you know what, I've thought a lot about it and I've decided you're right, we're going to do this. And her approval ratings would have gone up. But she didn't, because she's completely beholden to the message.
Hey, I notice every Wednesday evening she goes with her other lady friends and they go down to the YWCA and they play basketball with each other, which is fine nowadays. So then she would eventually come out of the YWCA, all sweaty with her, her ridiculous 3-colored ball and everything there, And
after closing out a successful first season, the WNBA is considering several changes to improve the level of play in the league next year. Among the proposals, extending the playoffs, increasing salaries, bringing back the three-point line, and replacing all the female players with guys.
Yeah.
The WNBA officials expanded to 10 teams this week, adding franchises in Detroit and Washington, D.C.
Hell yeah.
But before you get too excited about the new additions to the league, remember, all of the players are still women. They stink at basketball. That's the problem. Other than that, it'd be a good, good game, but they're all horrible, so it makes for a kind of a boring game.
The next time I watch a WNBA game will be the first time I watch a WNBA game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, WNBA, I got an idea that'll sell some tickets, shirts, and skins. Okay, WNBA high scoring and enter. Oh, Google. Did you mean Google. NBA high scoring? That's terrible. Oh, come on now.
Google. Yeah, he searched WNBA high scoring and it said, "Did you mean NBA high score?"
No, I gotta do that.
I wonder if it'll still do that. Yeah.
No, it doesn't, because they've got the AI crap now.
Drat. Dang it.
Yeah.
Could you imagine those shirts and skins if they actually did that?
It'd be disgusting because they're all a bunch of mongoloids.
Oh man. Okay.
Nobody wants to see that.
All right, Alan. Where can they see It's Too Late with Alan Mosley? Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Wednesday nights, 9 o'clock Eastern time at Rumble, Twitch, X, YouTube, Facebook, everywhere at Alan Mosley TV. Join us for the 7th annual It's Too Late live show, Saturday, May 17th here in Columbia, Tennessee. You got to get your tickets. It's going to be awesome. Just go to at Alan Mosley TV. You'll find it.
Wow. Sounds like it will be a great time that we will most likely not be going to again. So I am sorry. I apologize.
This is probably the last year we're doing it, so you guys aren't going to be my friends anymore
That's
after
not good.
May 17th.
That's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess May 17th is when the show will be officially over because you will no longer be my friend. Like, I don't want no.
Yeah. That's when we're unifying Korea. Is May 17th.
Yeah. It's over. Yeah. All right. Thanks again for doing the show. Thanks again for everybody watching and listening. And we will see you next time to see what the hell happened that week. Unless we're dead. Putin's a dictator. Did you know that?